Welcome to Heart Powered Conversations podcast. Today, my guest is a dear friend, Brooke Howsley of Sacred Owl Healing. She is an incredible energy healer. She practices shamanic rainbow energy healing that you will get to hear about today. She frequently travels to Pacific Northwest, Austin, to facilitate healing sessions, one-on-one and group. She lives in on the beautiful island of Maui, where I have had the joy of visiting her and her family. And Brooke and I have been friends for almost 4 years, probably. We connected at the time when the world was in a crazy online state, and we have been friends since. She is an incredible human, a wise woman, the epitome of a wise woman. And she is going to talk to us today about not only about her modality and her work, but also share her personal journey, which I always find is often the most inspirational part of it all, because we are all fractals of source, all parts of this one large tapestry. So hearing each other's stories and seeing how there is so much connection and how we are all interwoven with each other is so magical. So welcome, Brooke. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad that we get to have this conversation.
Me too, Kat. Thank you for that amazing introduction. And I wish that we could spend more time in person because I feel like when we get together, it's just things just pop.
I know magic happens when energies come together and start intertwining. So my friend, I'm going to start with the question that I ask pretty much all of my guests. What does it mean to you to live a life powered by your heart, powered by spirit, guided by spirit, and whatever word that means to you?
Yeah, I would say that because I am a 5 life path in numerology, freedom is really important to me. And so at the end of the day, I really need an incredible amount of freedom to follow my heart, to follow my inspiration. We were just about the word core, heart, and courage, and that's kind of what landed me here in Maui was the courage and the freedom to be able to bring my family here. And I can't imagine what life would be like if I didn't have that amount of freedom to follow. And I wish that for everyone on the planet. I know that that's why we are all healers. We're healers to unlock and liberate people. We liberate people from past trauma, from literally physical situations in their lives. So that's one of the key things that's important to me.
When you were just saying liberate people, I was also hearing liberate them from themselves so that they can stop controlling so much and get out of their own way. And in one of the sessions I've had with you, I remember it was over Zoom, and you at the end of the session you were like, Kat, your face looks different, you look so relaxed. And I remember thinking, it's really funny that this is coming up now. I remember thinking after our session together that like my mind had dissolved, and I truly allowed you to bring spirit and the guides and all of the magic that you do through and fill me, and me getting out of my way for the rest of the day and the rest of the week and kind of reconnecting to that frequency, because a lot of the time people have no idea how good it feels, right? Like how good it feels to hold more of that and to be guided by that. So yeah, that was just coming through, and I was remembering our magical session. I'll just say one more quick thing. Brooke used to be a florist. She had a floral arrangement business in Austin, Texas, before she moved to Maui, which, if you follow me, you will know that I moved to Dubai from Austin as well. We did not know each other. Brooke left before we met. But when you said life path 5, that's mine as well, which my background is also in creative businesses and all things, which I think is so funny. If you are 5 and you're listening this, freedom really is the the thing that that runs through us, that we want everyone to experience. And also there is that fire in that creativity that you now infuse into your sessions, how you play with the crystals and the twigs and the flowers from the island, how everything comes into healing, how you bring that frequency. So I just wanted to plug that in, because it truly is, that 5 in you is so alive, and so like you are a beacon of that, an example of that freedom and joy and, yeah, creativity. So
Thank you so much, Kat. I didn't know you were a 5, so that's a really great thing we
yeah.
have in common. And that really flowing forward, that's absolutely what I want to unlock in people. And I have the pleasure of seeing that happen before my eyes quite a bit. When I lead group sessions, a lot of times people from all over the world who are traveling to Maui show up. They don't know who I am beforehand, and they come, they lay down for an hour. We go through this, live channeled guided meditation. And just like you experienced, they wake up, they sit up and they're sort of newly awakened, and they have this different sensation of themselves. And it's really magical. I feel like I receive the energies as well every time I lead or every time I give a one-on-one session. So I feel like I'm just expanding and expanding in all the most enjoyable ways through the process.
So will you please share the story of how rainbow energy healing found you? Because it's not, we hear Reiki, we hear sound healing, but rainbow energy healing is not a common modality.
That's right. Yeah, it took a little digging for me to find it actually. So the story behind that is that I had been handed a lot of grief in my life. My father exited this realm within about a week of my mother-in-law also departing. So our whole family was sort of wrapped in this blanket of grief. I had a 1-year-old daughter. My husband was already sort of dealing with depression. So I knew that we needed something uncommon to get us out of this, eventually. And a friend led us into this really beautiful ayahuasca group. And it's not something I ever thought I would do personally. I'd never had any experience with psychedelics. I really didn't even drink, very much. And so leading into these ceremonies, I didn't know what to expect, but the most magical things for me. In one of the ceremonies, I saw myself with rainbows in my hands, like a slinky, and I could direct them at other people and direct them at my own heart. And it took me, I think, about 6 months to Google rainbow energy healing. And I realized that was a modality that a man named Chris in Toronto had channeled a number of years back. And so I flew to Toronto. I was like, I'm all in, let me train in this modality. I know it's going to unlock something for me. And it truly did. It gave me this framework to approach a healing session, which I didn't really know how to do that before. I think Reiki does something similar where it gives the practitioner this beautiful framework to work within. So once I had that framework, I was off to the races. I was like, okay, I'm going to just let my creativity and let my background in floral design inform the vignettes, that I would put on the healing table. I would just gather, whether it's like fresh mangoes and orchids and all the things, feathers, oracle cards, all the things. It just felt like I was creating for each chakra on the healing table for the person this gorgeous vignette. And I pull intuitively. I know I call in the guides, and I know the guides are there, way before the actual session time begins. And it's always intriguing to me what they have me pull out of my collection of power objects, um, to put on the table. One time there was a little obsidian arrowhead. And when we really got into the deep part of the session, that particular client had, in a very, very past life, stirred the ashes after burning a loved one. In those times, that's what you would do with a body. And the spirit of that loved one had sort of attached themselves to her. And so we cleared that out of her system, and it really made an impact. She felt a distinct difference from before clearing that and then after. So that's one of the shamanic components of the sessions that I give, that are a blend of rainbow energy healing, shaman sound healing, all those types of inclusions.
Do you believe that we are all here to create these blends of healing based on our current life experiences, on all of the past life things that we're bringing through here, and that we just need to give ourselves permission to do that, as you have?
Absolutely. There were so many past life recalls that I started to have on the journey of awakening. And just like you said, I never could have guessed what would come up, but there was a Native American past or parallel life, and she comes in and she paints with clay. So she'll paint. First it was me when I was sort of going through my own healing journey, and now it's with clients, but she'll paint like a detoxifying clay onto people to draw things out. At one point early on, before I started seeing clients, she did like cutting of our wrists and doing some type of ritual where we really connected so that we could do our healing work together in this tangible third or fourth dimensional realm now. So every single person has past experiences, just like you said, in past lifetimes. They may have trained in something very unusual in this lifetime and they don't know why. Maybe they're fascinated by space, or something very scientific even. And then once they learn how to utilize their energy in a healing capacity, they're like, oh my gosh, this huge body of knowledge that I did not know why I was learning it directly applies to this completely different new modality that no one has brought forward before. So yes, this is absolutely the age of individuals expressing themselves, and it doesn't have to necessarily be in a particular lineage, of or dogma, or to utilize their inner creativity to bring forth healing for themselves and others.
Thank you. Thank you for putting that so eloquently and so beautifully, and inspiring others to claim their creativity and their gifts and to channel them in whichever way they want to come through. Because I think we are still moving through this paradigm where you could have easily learned from Chris and stuck with for the rest of your life to the order of things, the way he does it, to the exact way he does it. Well, this is his modality. I have to honor it. And this is the only way, right? And I think the gift a lot of teachers can give us when we're learning from them is make it your own. Feel free to experiment, because I might have channeled this, but you are a channel for something different. So blend and merge and weave and create, because ultimately that is what brings the greatest joy and fulfillment and keeps it fresh and keeps more coming, right? Like it invites spirit to come through when we're in that joy, not when we're in that dogma. Like it's almost like you're trying to fit the whatever healing modality back in like the hospital setting, right? And we're saying, no, 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 it doesn't belong there. It belongs with playing with the animals and the crystals and the seashells and the twigs that your daughter picked and the little dolls that she made, and truly the love that goes into all of that is the energy that ultimately heals and unlocks and activates and all the things.
Absolutely. I am a person that if I'm bored, I will just stop whatever I'm doing and just change my focus. Floral design was amazing because with every new wedding, I could create something bespoke for the person that was very unique and different. And I feel like I need that fresh, juicy feeling in life all the time to feel vital. So it's interesting how I find that in shamanism and rainbow energy healing and all these types of things. And so, in fact, now I never thought I would be a practitioner who could incorporate sound healing, but I have recently purchased a set of crystal bowls for the seven chakras, and I use koshi chimes and sort of rattles and shakers. And it feels like I almost can't do the healing session without those tools now. It's become so integrated into what I do. And just that element of vibration, maybe I was resistant at first, or maybe it was that I had some self-doubt. I didn't think that I could hold that or bring that forward. But the more training I do, the more experimenting I do, even just I'll get them out and I'll put them all in my bathroom where it has really good acoustics, right? And I can feel the essence of each bowl and how they want to be played. And it just has unlocked some other side of creativity for me that I wasn't sure I would ever tap into.
Amazing, 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 amazing. I love it. I love that you keep expanding on it wants to, as it wants to keep flowing. And part of it is, Brooke, is when you were talking about it, I was seeing you in Atlantis, like seeing the sound and the crystal bowls and the crystals. It's like, even now they're coming through and they're saying, like, you would take the sound and you would put it in the crystals, and then you would use the crystals as your healing wands. You would, that was part of the thing we did in the temples. And I don't know if you listened to Joanna's interview on Heart Power Conversations, but she was talking about how the gong found her, the Atlantis gong found her, and how she plays it intuitively. And she talks about how it guides her and how she just receives that. And it's all of this for you listeners. It's not that Brooke had some specific training and she did this and that and she had this roadmap, right? She's flowing with it. She is just allowing to be guided and having courage to follow and be guided, and not allowing the mind to say, oh, no, 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 who am I to be a sound healer? No, that's somebody else, and you need this certification and you need this and that. No, it's having the courage to say yes to the inspirations as they come in, and allowing yourself to see it as play and experimentation. And that's when it's really working. Like, that's when the people respond and leave the session just glowing and feeling lighter.
I did listen to that interview with Joanna, and it blew my mind. And the way she described, just like you said, her guides showing her exactly like where and how to play the gong. I sought out a sound healer who was playing a gong and watched what they were doing. And I almost had a nervous breakdown. I was like, how can I get a gong? Where can I where can I get a gong from to she really kicked off a desire in me to go further into it and to experiment more. So thank you for mentioning her.
I have a feeling you might need a smaller one for your travels, though. One that is
Right.
easier to travel with, because these tools will want to come with you wherever you go, because leading us into this part of the conversation, and I'll backtrack a little bit for our audience. So Brooke and I connected because we well, we have the Austin connection. And at the time, I was also receiving a strong pull towards Maui. And we got connected by our dear friend, Jenny Gage. And she connected and says, you have to talk to Brooke, you have to connect, you have so much in common. And then one of the things we realized we had in common was that we were channeling and bringing through very similar energies. Like our guides kind of talked similar, and we had very similar abilities as far as channeling and receiving information. And one of the gifts and curses that we both experience is being given these really big visions. I call it future casting. You could call it whatever you want. But we would get these visions of, you are doing this and you're hosting this and you're speaking on the stage, and we would receive them. And I would speak for myself right now, and I would say, oh my gosh, this is happening. What do I need to do to get there? Because this feels so expansive and this is what I'm here for. And I say curse because a lot of the time it takes you out of being in the moment and actually allowing yourself to flow with whatever it is, because so much of that focus is on the future. So when we connected, one of the things that we would talk about was the vision of New Earth that we were both receiving, of sitting in circles and having big groups come together and all the things. And 4 years ago, we were in the middle of COVID, and it seemed like a faraway dream. But here is Brooke really embracing the path as it unfolds for her and working her way to exactly this. So I would love, Brooke, for you to share, because a lot of the listeners are healers, are women stepping onto this path who are looking for, I guess, an example or a role model in some way, who is very human, who is very. So if you could speak to how this path has unfolded for you and where it's taking you, and just kind of, yeah, an example of how life, how crazy and funny and unexpected life can be, as I know it has been for you in your adventure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, Kat, about being shown something and you're like, how could I ever really live up to that in the short term? You know, it would be easy to push it way down. Um, one of the guides that I met when I arrived on Maui, she had this beautiful big basket of flowers and she was sort of sprinkling them around, and I looked around and I was in a circle of women that I was not leading it, I was attending. And the message from this beautiful guide was, you're supposed to lead groups of women. And that sort of really struck a chord in me. It's you feel it as truth. You're like, oh yes, I am supposed to do that. And then you also feel the fear of, how would I do that? And so that was probably 4.5 years ago. And it's taken me this long to practice, to get comfortable. I lead groups weekly now, and I've really gotten accustomed to the role of that. And so I'm starting to develop retreats where I'm going to be bringing women together, probably in the Seattle area, maybe this fall, maybe next spring. But yeah, it's feels like it is divinely guided. It feels like it's a natural process. And had I put too much pressure on myself at that, 4.5 years ago sort of time, it might have short circuited the process. It might have not allowed it to really, for me to really mature in the right way. It's like if you pick a green fruit too early and it just never fully develops. Like I didn't want to rush into anything. Um, and so also I pay attention to astrology and astrocartography, which I know you do as well. And my astrology of the last few years was all about home. So we were literally building our house with our own two hands on Maui. And I was like, okay, the astrology undercurrent is that is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be rushing off to, abandon that project and do something else right now. So that came to a natural conclusion. And now is absolutely the time. Like I'm getting it from, when I had my astrocartography done, and my line of expansion goes right down through the Pacific Northwest. And it just seems like that is where I'm supposed to go to lead these groups. And the visions that I've always had is of myself. And I usually have on like a scarf, like the blue color of the aqua teal color of my dress today. It's like I have on that color scarf. I'm in this pine forest, a circle of trees around us, and there's this beautiful group of women. So I've had that vision for a long time. And I know that that's going to come to fruition maybe in the next, 12 to 24 months. And so I'm not trying to rush it. I'm not trying to run away from it. It feels like it's right on schedule.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I can absolutely see that vision too. And right before we started, you guys, Brooke pulled some cards for us for this conversation. And if you are watching, if you are listening, we will describe the card, especially the card, Brooke, the one with the owl and the dress, because she literally pulled the card from Kyle Gray's deck that is exactly that. So will you explain what's on it for anyone
Yeah,
listening?
absolutely. So it says wise woman, and it's this older, beautifully, matured woman, and she's got this gray, long, curly hair, which I could imagine I would look like as I mature. She has an owl on her right shoulder, and right behind me is a composite photograph of the Hawaiian owl from here on Maui that was gifted to me. So it's actually she's wearing exactly the same color dress that I'm wearing right now. And it just really potent to see. It's like I'm looking in the mirror and I'm seeing this version of myself that I hoped that I could achieve that in this lifetime. I didn't want to have the hubris, to think, I don't know, that it was destined. But every day that I walk this path, I feel more confident and I feel more aligned, like you said, like having the courage to confront any situation that a person is in and be able to sit with them and hold space for what they're going through. I mean, I've worked with people that have lost spouses, lost, beloved pets in tragic ways. There's definitely some very deep things that arise when you walk this path. And I used to be afraid of that. When I was a little girl, I remember picking up a bunny. I found a little tiny baby bunny in the field, and I picked it up and I held it next to my heart, and I could feel it starting to convulse and die. And I could not handle that. And I threw it. I threw it away from me. And at that point in my life, I couldn't take on those types of scenarios. And through all of the significant situations in my own life and my personal life with my family, I've confronted some very deep and, meaningful situations. And I bring all of that to the forefront, knowing that I can help walk someone else into the light if they're in that same situation.
Is there any tool that you share with your clients to not necessarily for grief or the hardship, which it could be, but is there anything that you kind of give to your clients, the groups, as a practice to bring themselves into that inner peace, love? Because we all have different tools. So
Yeah, I that's where I think the genius of rainbow energy healing really comes in, because Chris has created this framework where you are saying a very specific prayer and you're calling in really specific archangels, Archangel Michael, Metatron, Raziel, and then I like to call in Raphael too for physical healing, because don't we all need some physical healing in this realm? So leading people through a specific prayer that they can then utilize in their own life I was not a religious person growing up. In fact, I shunned religion probably because I'd been burned at the stake multiple times. But um, having a framework within which to connect with your guidance team is really important. So I feel like that's one of the main things that I'm doing for people is so not only do we call in the archangels, I call in the client's whole spirit healing team in mind. So good, true, and beautiful ancestors, ascended masters, galactic family, plant, mineral, and animal kingdom. So awakening all of their clairs. So usually in a session, I'm doing something either to the ear chakras, to the crown, to the third eye, or just their whole energy field to really connect them with what's right behind them, right around them. I've had people say, "Oh my gosh, I could after you introduced me, I could really feel the presence of, you know, whatever guide came into the session that was specific for them." So that's one of the things that was done for me. I saw a couple of different healers that really awakened clair-senses in me, like tapping on my third eye. I started to have clairvoyant visions. Chris unlocked, like he took something off my solar plexus, and I started being able to channel in a written sort of fashion. So if I am able to assist anyone else, like opening up what they can receive, I think that's one of the most important things we can do.
Amazing. And I think as you were talking about, I was seeing, I've had this conversations that with several people this week regarding people having fear around seeing, around connecting with certain energies, around knowing something beyond what they already know. So in many ways, we are blocking ourselves from being able to do that. So I think it's such an incredible gift when one, people can hear your story and feel the bliss and the this flow and this joy that comes from connecting to these energies, right? And it kind of reframes something in the mind, and then to come and have a session with you where that is unlocked for them, whatever is ready, because it's not saying come and Brooke will unlock everything for you, whatever is ready,
Right.
right?
Right. Yeah, it's not that I'm doing anything quote to the client. It's really that I'm just witnessing what the guides want to highlight for them. And if that's something that's coming up in their system to really expand into, I'm just kind of, pointing a little directional, sign there to that. And to explain a little bit of the more detail of the story, when Chris saw that there was this band, that was keeping me from sharing a channeling type of experience, he said, "I'm seeing a past life for you where you knew something you were not supposed to know. The authorities found out and they cut your tongue out for it." And he was like, let's heal that, let's get that sort of out of your field. And I feel like that's what we did in that session. And I have no doubt that over thousands of incarnations, so many sensitive healer type individuals have something like that, have a story where they don't believe in themselves, or they can't seem to pull that ability forward. And now is the time that it's called for. Now is the time that it's safe for us to really come into our full abilities. So yeah, that was a very shocking revelation, that was hard to integrate for me. And I really um took my time with thinking through all of the implications of that lifetime. But I'm so glad he shared the information. I'm so glad we cleared it out. And now I'm super eager to bring forward what comes through.
And I think having had that experience, right? I haven't had that experience. I've always felt very much safe to speak. I'm sure I've had those experiences, but they weren't so heavy in my energy body, right? And having had this experience, I bet you will also magnetize some of the clients who have had that similar story run through their incarnations so that you can be a guide for them, which is how a lot of this happens. We attract people who we can help based on what we experience, what we go through. And I think in some ways, we are being invited to see that as a gift, right? Having gone through that, it's like, oh, I am so glad. It was a horrible experience. It was painful to have to go through this. But this healing, this whole remembering and reintegration and freeing myself from it was a gift because it now allows me to see and recognize it in others. And I know how to help others with this because it is so needed. And it's part of our tribe, these men and women who are wanting in some way to speak or to work in this field, right? But there is so much unconscious fear, so much ancestral, so much past life. It's just, so I think it's such a gift that Chris gave you, right? But also that
Completely.
you designed for yourself to have so that you could then guide others through this process. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, awakening people to their intuition is something that I've been talking with Weibo Lauren, and she mentioned the other day. She was like, you went right into floral design with no training. You developed this business where you were, using your intuition and knowing how to design flowers. And then she said, and then you followed your intuition on a very big move, and then into a different career. And she said that could really be helpful to other people. And it honestly, when it's framed like that, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, I would love to develop something around that and lead people, you know do Sabana, and then in the afternoon guide them through the group rainbow energy healing. So yeah, I feel like that's brewing and probably gonna come forward soon.
I love it. I love it. And I think the thing that creates most impact for somebody witnessing you, for somebody listening or learning from you is hearing the stories of how you followed your intuition, exactly what you just said, how you built the business based on that, how you followed the intuition to Maui, the fact that you did, because a lot of the people are receiving, but they're not taking action. They're not
Right.
like, and intuition is nothing unless you take action, because more will be revealed as you get there. The land will find you. Do you remember how often we would talk about that before you found your land? Like, just trust, it's coming. The how is not, is not for right now to figure out. It's okay, it will all fall into place. But I think if anything, you are an incredible example of following the intuition, receiving, guiding others how to receive, opening, unlocking those channels. But it's also about you being courageous and taking action and saying, I receive, thank you. I will do as you show me. I'm not just going to sit here and not act on it and wait for a better thing to come. Like and that's the flow. That's when people talk about, I want to be in the flow. I want to be okay. Okay, let's open to receive and then take action and then do.
Absolutely. And just a little bit of backstory on that. It's not that every single thing that I tried worked out perfectly. It's easy to kind of see from this vantage point, where my family and I are, but my husband and I did move to New Zealand before that. I feel like that was an experience of having to clear some karma, and it didn't work out well. Like we bought a house that was a little bit too expensive. The 2008 global real estate crash happened, and then we decided, oh, I decided I can't live in New Zealand. It's too far from my family. I have not developed a community here. And so we had to sell at a huge loss and sort of go back to Austin with our tails tucked between our legs. It was not a glamorous experience, but we did have the courage to try moving again after my daughter was born and she was 5. We were like, okay, we've been given another opportunity before she really starts into proper school. Where in the world do we want to go? So yeah, it took a lot of courage. And in fact, I think my husband, after having his heart, stomped on, like he loved New Zealand and I was the one that couldn't do it. I think he was very hesitant to try again, but we did, and we're really glad that we kept pushing forward and didn't get stuck. Yeah.
And thank you for presencing that, because I think it's really easy to focus on the amazing adventures and the glamorous things, the way that things always work out. Yeah, they always work out in the end, but there might be some hardship. There might be some lessons, like something really wanted to bring up money stuff for you. And what a big way to bring it up with the New Zealand experience, right? And also to show Kyle in that case that's kind of the environment he wanted to live in, right? Like that's
Exactly.
what he wanted, the energy that he really wanted to surround himself with. And that there could be another place where you could find it, which you, in the end, you're here. And not that this is the end. Who knows where the next 50 years will take you and me and everyone else. So it's trusting in the unfolding, and just in some ways seeing it as a beautiful experiment where, yeah, we'll make some mistakes and sometimes things will go wrong, but it's always figure outable. It's always with the guidance, as long as we stay clear, as long as we keep connecting, as long as we are in our sovereign power and we allow ourselves to be guided, but also taking that action. I truly do think that it's working out for us then, because we are having the exact experience we're supposed to be having in that moment.
Aho.
Yeah, it's life. This particular life, right? This particular incarnation is such a funny one. And I was just telling Brooke before we started recording, Brooke has been part of the Pyramid Codes, the 9-month long container that I was facilitating. And our last guide is Osiris, who's coming in with the message that we are entering an era where we are being given a choice to walk this earth truly as ascended masters, because so much light is coming in. We have done so much healing. If you're listening to this, chances are you have been on this journey for a while. And the chance now is truly to see this opportunity as the doors, the gates open to hold so much more light and walk this path, holding that light and sharing that light and trusting in the unfolding of it all, following the breadcrumbs. Like I really feel that Brooke is the most perfect example of following the breadcrumbs that the guides are giving, and trusting, and it's all working out. I don't have proof yet, but it's all working out.
I love me a good breadcrumb.
It's also the gift, and I think this is the teaching, Brooke. How do you teach someone what is a breadcrumb? Like that's the thing, right? It's because somebody listening right now is going, I wish I could have a breadcrumb. And I guarantee that you do, right? It's like, it's attuning yourself to be able to recognize what is a breadcrumb. And it's through feeling a lot of the time. And it's through claiming your power as someone who is able to see the breadcrumbs, like reclaiming it from all directions, from all dimensions.
I
And
get
who
phone
can help you
calls.
with that?
I get phone calls and like voice messages of friends and clients, and they're like, "You will never guess what happened to me." I was talking about, this part of the world, and then someone tapped me on the shoulder, and they happened to have just been to that part of the world. And like, there's these complex scenarios that, and I'm like, "That's a breadcrumb."
Yeah. So what is this inviting you to do? What does it feel like you want to do? What does it scare you to do? Oh, it really scares me to go to France right now. Well, maybe that's the thing. Okay, ask for more. Ask for more. Where do I go? What is it? What do just and not becoming obsessed, right? Because you and I have talked about this before as well, how we can be like dogs with a bone where we're just so like obsessed with something. So, and it's about allowing, because spirit doesn't like that. They're like, no, no, it's all floating around you. It's all already existing. All the limitless possibilities and all the timelines, everything exists.
You have to stay flexible. Like I think that's one of the superpowers that I see in people that I really admire is, oh my gosh, that person was able to just stay flexible in a situation where most people would have shut down. So yeah, I mean, it may be like you just said, it may be that there's this, oh my gosh, this, clear pathway here. And then spirit says, oh, but there's a right turn. What about this? So yeah, if like you just said, if you can um, know that I think Lee Harris says your spiritual GPS always brings you back around to the thing that's right for you. So yeah, it may take a circuitous path, but you'll always get back where you're supposed to go.
And trusting that journey, that it's not about the final spot. Like, what are you going to do when you're there? Like it's like it's like retirement in a way, right? So many of us are conditioned to think, when I retire, I'll do this. And we forget that it's about the journey, right? That it's not about the actual retirement. So
Yes.
this is kind of the spiritual version of that. It's like, enjoy this. And it's a good reminder for me. I'm currently in Dubai, and I question, I find days where I'm like, well, when are we leaving? How long is this for? And the answer is enjoy it, because the gifts of it can only come to you when you are in that appreciation and in that receptive state for it, and not rejecting it. And you and I know this well. When we are ready to leave a place, we're like, okay, I'm done, get me out of here. It's like, well, and if you're listening, this is the advice for you. It's when we stop rejecting something and we don't see it as I'm running away from something, right? It's connecting to that feeling of what the place where I will be guided to provides, or those visions that I'm being given, right?
Beautifully said, Kat.
Yeah. Well, Brooke, oh, I guess I have to ask you the most important question. Where can people find you? I got lost in our conversation, and the most important thing, where can people find you? How can they work with you?
Yeah, so my website is sacredowl.guide, and that explains a little bit about me, a little bit about the one-on-one sessions that I lead people through. You can also go to Instagram, which is at sacred.owl.healing. And please do sign up for my newsletter. I love to send out channeled messages that I receive from the guides 1 or 2 times a month. And any of the upcoming retreats that I'm planning, I'll definitely put in the newsletter and post it on the website and Instagram.
And Brooke's healing sessions happen in person and remote over Zoom. I have received them firsthand. I've had several remote sessions with Brooke. They're just as powerful. They're beautiful and really bring you into a different space, into a different dimension, if you will. Her newsletter, yes, yes, yes. Sign up for her newsletter. Beautiful, beautiful channel guidance. And the last thing I'd like to say is she truly embodies that frequency of that wise woman with the owl on her shoulder. That is Brooke. So if you are in Maui, in the Pacific Northwest, in Austin, wherever she's going to be this summer, seek her out and schedule a session, because I cannot recommend her enough. She is a beautiful, beautiful soul and a dear friend of mine. So thank you again for coming, Brooke. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
My heart is bursting. Same to you, Kat. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you for being here, Brooke. And thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, rate, review, and come back next week for more. Thank you.